Another Dooley Noted Podcast comes to you from the Coach's Podcast Room at Spurrier's Gridiron Grill in Celebration Point. Okay, welcome into Another Dooley Noted Podcast, as always presented by the great people at Titan MRI, and we are coming to you from the Meldon Law Gator Studios here at Steve Spurrier's Gridiron Grill. We love it. I was here last night. I feel like it's all I do is hang out here. But I was here last night. Obviously, we did the radio show here, Jeff and I, and then I hung out. I wanted to see Mike White. I had not spoken to Mike White face to face in over a year because of I don't cover games anymore. So I just wanted to come up and say hi. How you doing, man? I'm rooting for you, Mike. So I don't know if that meant anything to him. I didn't get the impression it did, but it was interesting to watch the show, and it was. Up there at Visors, so great job. Great job that they did it. They do a really good job of doing all that stuff. So we got a lot to talk about today. Our guest today will be Mike Pratt. If you don't know Mike Pratt was a great player and played for Adolph Rupp, 6'4", really good player. In fact, he's in the Hall of Fame at Kentucky. That's how good a player he was. And now he does radio for Kentucky, so he knows this team inside out. And, of course, that's Florida's basketball opponent on Saturday, 4 o'clock. So we'll talk to him about that. May even talk to him a little bit about his stint in the Sun Belt Conference because I was covering games that he was coaching back in those days, way back in the 70s, believe it or not. I know it's hard to believe I'm that old. It really is. I understand that. But we got a lot of other things to talk about, including the Super Bowl. We got all of our great sponsors. And we added another sponsor. I'm excited about this because they're also a sponsor of the golf tournament, as are, I think, pretty much everybody on the list of our sponsors, whether it's Leonardo's or obviously Meldon Lawn is now a sponsor of our golf tournament. Titan MRI always has been there for us. All these people, Adams Rib to go, of course. Adams Rib will be there as they always are. Ballyhoo as they always are. Dark Shakow, for a while they were the actual title sponsor for a long time. So we appreciate all these people. These are just, obviously it's exciting. But Big Mills Cheesesteaks is coming on board to be part of both this show, this podcast, and the golf tournament. They'll be out there on the first tee, cooking up some sausage dogs. That right there, that's all you need to be for incentive to play in a tournament. However, I don't want to give you incentive because we're full. I mean, we are stuffed to the gills. We have got there are people that are worried they're going to get thrown out of it. You're not paying, you're not playing. So anyway, all this stuff is going good. Main goal right now is to try to get as many gift certificates as we possibly can from different places, and I'm going to hit all these places up. They better be ready for Hurricane Pat. I always talk about Hurricane Tim because when he comes to town, my brother, it's crazy. All right, let's talk about what's happened in the last couple of days. Obviously, the men's basketball team did not play well at times, but my philosophy, win by one, and that's what they did. They ended up winning by more than one, but they obviously weren't very good at times in the game. It was maddening at times. I mean, Oquendo is a really good player, but there were just things that they did, and I know that Coach White was not happy with them, and then people got on him for that, for saying, when he says the honest thing in his brain is to say our guys started looking at the scoreboard. They wanted to see how much time was left. They just wanted to get off the floor. Everybody gets mad at him for doing that. And I'm like, well, I do agree that he's got to make sure they don't do that. But, I mean, sometimes you have 6 or 7 straight minutes without stoppage of play. It's hard to do sometimes. I'm not defending that. I think you need to have guys that aren't looking at the scoreboard. But the bottom line is Florida got to this 4-game run with 4 straight wins, which they had to have all 4. Any one of them would have been devastating. They still are not in the tournament by even close. They've got to beat somebody. They are, in fact, I looked it up today. They actually dropped 5 spots in the net rankings after a win because they beat a bad team at home. Certainly, maybe this team can actually be pretty good because if Myron Jones, if all this stuff, I know I don't know how true it is. I mean, you never know how true anything is anymore. That his finger was broken, and that's why he was shooting so bad. And now all of a sudden he's made 14 to 23 three-pointers. That's shooting. That's shooting your ball right there. And he's got a lot of confidence. And he's playing well in other parts of the game. He had a couple of assists and a couple of block shots in the game against Georgia. So if you add that element to all right, you've got Appleby, as maddening as he can be to watch. There are times when he hits clutch after clutch three-pointers, and you got Castleton. And you go, well, I'm not saying this team's going to make a lot of noise in the NCAA tournament, but if you can win some games, you're going to have to win some games. And I think in a perfect world, I mean perfect, Florida goes 2-2 in their next 4 games. If they do that, that will mean that they beat 2 of these 4 teams, Kentucky, Texas A&M, which would be a quad 1 because that's where they are in the right now, and they may drop down, but it's right now it would be a quad 1 road win. Auburn, we know about them, and Arkansas, which just beat Auburn. So that's their next 4 games. If you go 2-2 in those games, I think Florida may be in the tournament just with that. So we'll see what happens there going forward. It is interesting. Basketball. Women's basketball, obviously, another win. I didn't really get to watch the game. I listened to it, though, driving home. Listened to the end of it, especially the fourth quarter, and they just buried him. I actually did watch the last couple of minutes. But it's just amazing. It's a story that keeps getting better. It's hard to explain what is happening with this basketball team, and there's a part of you, and I know many people who, including the legendary Kim Mulkey, who the reason she said, I don't know why Florida hasn't done anything about this, why they haven't just given her the job. She had a beef with Scott Strickland when they were together, is what I was told. And they didn't like each other. So that's what she's doing. She didn't care whether they make her. But there are a lot of people that talk about it and ask about it, and I've asked about it. And look, in March, they'll sit down and talk about everything. They want to find out what her plans are with staff, stuff like that. I mean, it's just like the normal part of hiring, but I don't think anybody's going to swoop in and get her. But there's got to be a point where you kind of go, maybe this coach is really something special, because Florida basketball was not good. It got to be mediocre for a while there under Amanda. Got to the tournament a couple of times. Then it was not good again. And then it was really not good. And all of a sudden it's really good. And it's fun to watch and people are excited about it. So my point is, maybe she's got that it factor and this is the first chance she's had to show it. And I'm like, look, you're the athletic director, you're the president, you're the whatever. You guys got to make your decision. You're the one who has to live with it. I don't have to live with it. But to me, we're at the point now where you just kind of go, all right, maybe we need to start this process. Now, they want her to focus on games because, let's face it, their schedule softens up at the end of and I can't believe I know that now because I actually looked it up. With women's basketball, it's been kind of, I don't want to say it's been chic, but it's been kind of the norm to just say, that's our one sport that sucks. We're not going to pay attention. But now, I mean, it's like everybody's freaking out. And I actually looked it up because I was curious. I had not looked up. I want to tell you, I had not looked up the SEC women's basketball standings, maybe ever, but obviously since the internet was invented by Al Gore. But Florida's women are right now tied for third in the SEC. and they're, I think, 2 games out of first. Now, they're not going to probably catch South Carolina. I mean, obviously, they lost South Carolina already. But just that you're talking about them. Right now, Charlie Cream, who does a great job at ESPN. In fact, that one year that Florida did have a really good team under Amanda, and then they got one and done, I believe, in the postseason. That would be SEC and the other the regular tournament. So anyway, I met him and talked to him a couple times. Great guy. He really knows what he's talking about. He's got Florida as a 7 seed right now. But their net ranking is still really low. The net ranking has lost all credibility when it comes to Florida women's basketball. Nobody should ever look at that and go, "Oh, that's how good that team is." You're number 46, Florida women's basketball. They're 18-6. Okay, they've won 9 of the last 10 games. Yeah, you suck. Net rankings. I'm not saying they don't suck in the men's either, but they probably do. All right, so obviously we're going to get to when we get to the Hesser and Kipke games of the weekend, we will talk about a lot of the stuff that's going on around here. It's going to get wild. This is the best time. I love this time because you got so many things you can do. But I do want to talk about the Super Bowl. I heard it's being played Sunday. I've kind of gone back to being the Bengals on the Bengals side, but really I think I'm just going to watch. And I think it's going to be one of those rare Super Bowls where I just watch and go, whoever's behind, I'm rooting for. And that may be the best way to do it because with these offenses, it's going to be ridiculously crazy. Joe Burrow's been unbelievable, as we know, even though he, I think, is the love child of Jim Gaffigan and Macaulay Culkin. That's where I'm going with that. Because that is a shade of pale I've never seen before. But he is an unbelievable player. And we knew that. I mean, remember the game here when he threw the pick, and it was his first pick. It was the first pick of the season for Joe Burrow in Game 6 against Florida, and Brad Stewart ran it back for a touchdown. And it pretty much clinched the game. But you already could tell this guy was pretty good, and then the next year was ridiculous. And so you never know how guys are going to translate. But I think more and more it's easier for quarterbacks to translate and be really good. That's just not translate, to progress and be really good. And we've seen it with a bunch of them. I mean, you're seeing quarterback play like the NCAA or the NFL has been very lucky in that these guys have really started developing quarterbacks at a higher level, and so they're more ready for the NFL. So, Roethlisberger retiring, Aaron Rodgers may retire, whatever. We'll bring on these other new guys. It's worked out really good for them. All right, we got a lot to get to. But in just a couple of minutes, we're going to bring on Mike Pratt, who, of course, great player at Kentucky in their Hall of Fame and Ring of Honor, and also coached for a while and does radio for Kentucky basketball. So we'll talk to him about how good this Kentucky team is and also about the rest of the SEC when we return. You're watching Another Dooley Noted Podcast. It is presented by Titan MRI from the Meldon Law Gator Studios.
Alberta, I understand you were witnesses to a crash. Can you tell us about the accident? When you're in a crash, it's important to get witness statements immediately after the accident. Whether you're in a car, truck, motorcycle, scooter, or even a golf cart accident, at Meldon Law, we won't back down.
Titan MRI, North Central Florida's premier independent diagnostic testing MRI facility. At Titan MRI, we're focused on you, the patient, having a great customer experience. Our MRI equipment is modern and 75% quieter than any unit in its class. And our MRI unit has one of the largest openings of any of the newer high-strength MRI units, which allows comfortable scanning for potential claustrophobic and larger patients. At Titan MRI, we look forward to serving you.
Another Duly Noted podcast comes to you from the Coach's Podcast Room at Spurrier's Gridiron Grill and Celebration Point. You can watch and listen to us on Facebook and YouTube for every podcast that we do on Mondays and Fridays at 2 o'clock. Listen to the podcast whenever on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Overcast, any of the other 39 platforms where you can find this podcast or your favorite podcast. Remember to like, follow, and subscribe. If you have any questions or comments, leave them in the comments section below or call me if you want to do some advertising at 352-317-3444. Hello there, everybody. I'm Pat Dooley, of course, from Another Dooley Noted Podcast. And this is a great Adam Brewer, and he's just opened up a place here, Adam Brewer To Go. What gave you the idea to do this, to have a to-go place like this?
We really like the fast concept, being able to get the barbecue. Now we have this new online ordering. So before it was a call ahead carry out, quick service. We have like a curbside kind of a deal where everything's ready to go for you. And then we thought, wow, we have a really great dine-in concept, but how can we make this streamlined for the customer and make it easy and accessible for all parts of town?
Adam's Rib Co. To Go. Come on down and enjoy it.
Great food, great atmosphere, a diverse menu, everything made from scratch, plenty of space, and locally owned. These are all the characteristics of a great restaurant, and you can find each and every one of them right here in Gainesville at Ballyhoo Grill. Ballyhoo Grill prepares all of their food fresh every day, from their salad dressing to their award-winning soups. Bring your family and enjoy dinner under the Tim Tebow Tiki Hut while listening to live music. Or if you're running low on time to eat out, they also deliver through Uber Eats, Bite Squad, and Postmates. A Gainesville staple that's been open for over 30 years. Check out Ballyhoo Grill on Facebook or at ballyhoogrill.com.
Okay, welcome into Another Duly Noted Podcast, presented by Titan MRI from the Meldon Law Gator Studios, and of course Steve Spurrier's Gridiron Grill, as you always see from all the great helmets behind us. Right now, we're going to shift gears a little bit from football to basketball and talk about this big Florida-Kentucky game coming up. With a guy who's literally a legend up in that area. The great Mike Pratt joins us now, of course, Hall of Famer at the University of Kentucky and coach for a while. But by the way, I was at games you coached, believe it or not, because I covered the Jacksonville Dolphins in the Sun Belt Conference. So I know I was at games you coached back then.
I'll tell you, Tate's Lock coached the Dolphins.
Yep.
And it was that was quite a league back then, Pat. I mean, you had Gene Bartow, you had Tate's Lock, you had Butch Van Bretnikoff, and of course you had Lee Rose, and I was just a pup trying to cut my teeth with all those legends in basketball, and it was a lot of fun. At that point in time, that was one hell of a basketball league. It really was.
It was, and I remember covering a Sun Belt championship game, and it was before the shot clock, and I think it was 24-21 final, and one team held. I think South Alabama held it for the whole game. But anyway,
they did.
Yeah,
they did. Yeah.
I mean, those are the kind of memories I have. I can't remember my wife's birthday, but I remember that game.
I think all of us in sports are a lot like that, Pat.
Well, I mean, Mike, you obviously as a Kentucky radio announcer, you've got to be really enjoying what you're seeing, because this is a program that last year, obviously, it was the worst of all the scenarios that could come about, where the COVID issue was there, the lack of fans in the stands, and they just weren't that good together. They couldn't get that cohesive group going together. This team seems to be going the opposite direction, where they seem to be maybe, I think, arguably as good as anybody in the country.
Yeah, I think right now they're playing awfully well, Pat. And your point is well taken about last year. That was hard to watch. It was very much a disappointment for a former player to see a team like that. I think, and the fans recognized it also, Pat. They didn't fall in love with this ball club. They didn't have a real positive feel about this ball club. And I think the problem last year was you had some I guys and not enough we guys. And on top of that, you had ball stoppers. And, James Harden is a good ball stopper because he makes baskets when he stops the ball. we had ball stoppers who could not make baskets.
Yeah.
It was a rough year, Pat. It was a rough year.
Was there Schwebe came early last year, right? He came during the season. In last year, I'm talking about last season. Yeah, so he came early.
He did. He sat out second semester. He sure did.
Right. So, did you guys were you hearing stories about what this monster was all about? This incredible rebound eating machine?
Yeah, we were hearing some, but here's when he got my attention. Prior, one ball game, the team went back in after warming up. He stayed out. He had an imaginary ball in his hand, okay, because the managers, everybody, they were in the locker room. He had an imaginary ball in his hands, and he went through the motions like you were practicing dancing, okay, the pivot, the drop step, different places on the floor. He was out there by himself. How many guys do that? That showed me right there the kid. I didn't imagine he would be as good a rebounder as he is. I thought he was a very good one. But, just that type of work ethic is what that kid's all about.
Isn't that the thing with Cal's teams, though? Because it's going to be a different cast every year, but you don't know whether they're going to mesh together. And it seems like bringing in Severe Wheeler, having a guy who, when that happened, I went, that's not fair. You can't have Kentucky get the fastest player in the league too. But just the way he's played and the way all these guys have played, getting them to mesh together, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
That's right. And, we've had a couple guys through the portal or transfer prior to the portal, and they worked out well, especially Reed Travis from Stanford, grad transfer. He was terrific. He really added to the ball club, his maturity in his locker room. But when you add, 3 or 4 guys, of course, C.J. Frederick, is injured. He's not playing. But you had Severe, you had Sheboy, you had C.J. Frederick, and you had guys that came from programs, okay, that were winners, that were fundamentally strong, and they could deliver. And that was really important. That added to the culture. What the culture Calipari wanted, he got from all those guys playing together.
Obviously, I read the column that Mark Story did last night about, at least I read it last night, about how Florida Kentucky's not a rivalry anymore. It's died out. And I was like, last time they played, Florida won. I don't know if you know it, and they won in Lexington. But okay, if you want to say that. But I don't know that it's got the intensity that it used to have, because Florida's just not been able to get to as high a level. Kentucky, to be honest, has had more ups and downs than Florida has during that time. But do you sense that it's a big deal up in Lexington that the Mighty Gators are coming to town?
Yeah, it still has some pizzazz, but it doesn't have the, as you said, the intensity that it used to have. Now, if you go back, and last year was a pandemic year, and you guys did win in Lexington. The year before, when Kentucky won 7 of the last 8 games before everything was shut down, I thought one of the biggest wins they had during the stretch. They lost to Tennessee at home, surprising, because they usually win at home and lose on the road with that rivalry. Right. But you remember when the Cats came to Gainesville, it was the last ball game played before the tournament.
That's right.
The SEC, everything was closed.
And Florida had a big lead, yeah.
Yeah, they beat Florida at a big lead. The Cats came back. That was a good ball club. I thought that ball club at that point in time, the way they came along, as you said, they meshed late in the year, middle February, late February, somewhere in there. I thought that team had a serious chance with Nick Richards, and you also had Quickly. Yeah, you had a really good ball club, and I think that team had a chance to make a deep run. And then you follow up that year with pandemic, and it was hard to have anybody as a rival, let alone Florida. Then Florida came in and won at Rupp. So I would like to see this rivalry come back, because you're going to have to play them twice a year. Let's make something of it. It's in with Florida and Vandy. Vandy and Tennessee and Florida are the 3. and it would be a lot of fun because they've slotted it in as the last game of the year up till now, either at Florida or in Lexington. And, that kind of brings to a head the season going into the SEC tournament. So it's good to have both teams playing at their best at that time.
Yeah, it's been an interesting year, obviously, in the SEC, and that it has felt almost like there's a really good top half and a really bad bottom half. But then I watch those bottom half teams play, and they're not that bad. They just can't find a way to win games. Georgia's got good players. They just can't find a way to win games. They lose by 2 to Auburn, and then they come to Gainesville, and they cut it to 3 with 3 minutes to go. So they all have good players, but some teams just can't find a way to win the basketball game.
I think you're right, and I think you look at Georgia, you look at Ole Miss, you look at Texas A&M, even throw Vandy in there. They're all at the bottom of the league, what you're talking about. And I think there's one common denominator for all of them. They've all had to go to the portal for whatever the reason. People leaving them or high school recruiting was not good. They all went to the portal. And basically, none of them had a lot of success with the portal. It's spotty here and there, but not a turnaround guy, which they really needed. And, of course, Georgia's got 2 guys starting, one at Arkansas, right, and one at Auburn.
I know,
their ball club. That's really odd now. That is really odd. So I think those schools, unlike the upper part, look at Auburn. They get Kessler. How big a get was that? K.D. Johnson. How big a get? And Green. You got 3 guys right there that are in contention for first team All-League.
It's a weird dynamic too this isn't going away. I know that everybody says organically everything will, with NIL and everything, and the transfer portal will resolve itself. But sometimes I wonder if it will or not. What do you think the fan base will be like though on Saturday at 4:00 when the Gators run on the court? Is it going to be like I don't know that there's ever been as much hatred in the Kentucky nation. Maybe for somebody at Louisville, but for Joakim Noah, it was at an all-time peak. But I don't know that it's going to be that vicious for this game because Florida's not kind of been at that high level.
I think you're right. And that's where we earlier talked about where we'd like to see this rivalry going. Now, I'm going to go back to my days. The deep hatred for Ray Mears and those good Tennessee teams in the late 60s. Was pretty in the old Coliseum was pretty intense. But yes, when Florida was on a roll, back-to-back national championships, people forget about that. That was an amazing accomplishment by Billy Donovan and those guys, and it was. And then a couple years after that, it carried on. Now they didn't win national championships, but they had good teams, right? And so when these 2 teams met, it was intense. There's no question.
Let me ask you this. I can't let you go without asking you about what it was like playing for Adolph Rupp during the old days. And, I'm old enough to remember those days, but you were old enough to play in them.
He was a coach who there's 2 things he really expected of you. And they were, A, you go to class, and B, you come to practice for 2.5 hours, you play hard. He practiced hard. He had a saying, I think you'll like this. In practice, he would say, if you can improve, you can talk if you can improve on silence. And that was, he wanted your attention. He forced you to focus. We didn't look at it then. We didn't use that word, but he forced you to focus and concentrate. And let me tell you, playing for him was tough. It was rewarding. But it wasn't as tough as playing in the old Gator Alley against the full house on a Saturday afternoon when the sun was coming in the window on the side. You had Neil Walk and Andy Owens and all those good players. That was a tough out, buddy.
Oh, I remember that one year they went 21-4 and of course couldn't go to the tournament because they didn't win the NCAA or the SEC championship regular season. I used to go to games back in those days, and I'd love Neil Walk till the day he died. He was very generous with me and his time talking about the old days. obviously going through that with Joakim and Al going in the first, high in the first round, and he was the highest pick ever, going number two behind Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, which he always had that going for him, I guess. But
Neil was a good man when he was playing, I believe, with Phoenix at the end of his career. They weren't making the playoffs, and I was playing in the ABA, and we were playing Miami. And in one year, we played the Floridians, Miami Floridians, with the wild uniforms and the bikini girls in the baseline, And Neil was, being from Miami, he was there because his season was over. We were in the playoffs, and he came out to see Issel and I, and it was really good to see Neil. And that was before his accident and then his death. And then later on, when I was working in the NBA, Jerry Colangelo, a friend of ours, who thought Neil walked on the moon. And Jerry came up to me before a game and said, "Do you know Neil?" I go, "Well, sure, I know Neil. Where is he?" He says, "Come on." And he took me into the press room, and there was Neil in his wheelchair, a small person. I mean, this guy was a giant.
Oh, I know.
Pat, he was a giant, and he was a big guy, not just tall and skinny. He was a big guy, and he was in this wheelchair. And I've told this story before to Issel and Casey about it. It almost made you want to cry. It almost wanted to make you cry.
Yeah, I saw him out in Phoenix when Florida was out there for the NCAA tournament. I think it was Bradley Beal's 1 year at Florida. That was the year, and we talked for a long time. And yeah, it was very sad. But you played in the ABA. Have you ever seen the movie Semi-Pro?
I love it.
Yeah. That to me, it actually captured the ABA.
It did. I've watched that 3 or 4 times just for kicks and grins, right? And I watch it, I go, I know who that guy's supposed to be, or I know who that owner's supposed to be, or this arena, whatever. I mean, it was probably as good, as well done as any, or just about any sports movie as far as dealing with reality of the subject. It was terrific.
Yeah, you never had to go sell pretzels at halftime or anything, did you?
No, we were lucky. We were one of the more stable franchises. But my rookie year, we had to play Miami in the playoffs. And, of course, they were having the big boat show at the convention center where the Floridians played. So we played the first 2 games, or actually it was the third and the fourth game, of the playoff series in Miami at the junior college. How about that? I mean, that's big time, right?
That doesn't get any better than that. That's when you know you've arrived, right?
You got it, man.
You know you've arrived. I'm sure when you walk in the building, there's a lot of people are happy to see you because you're a legend at Kentucky and certainly around the SEC. And I think you and I are both happy about this because we've been around this a long time to see the SEC get good in basketball again. And I think Mike Slive started the movement to make it be better. What do we need to do to make it be better? And we clearly are seeing the fruits of that labor right now.
It's probably been since the 80s that maybe when Auburn and Alabama were running well and Kentucky was running well. You go back to that point in time in the SEC. And then, of course, when Billy had those terrific teams in Florida, there wasn't great depth then. It was Kentucky in Florida, basically, right?
Right. And maybe Tennessee here and there, yeah.
Yeah, and so it is good. It is fun. And I think you can make an argument that they're the best league in the country. Now, what really is going to make it tough is when Texas and Oklahoma come in the league and how they arrange those schedules. I mean, I've been out to Texas. We played in the NCAA. That is not an easy place to play. Yeah. I've never been to a game at Oklahoma. But what do you do with those teams? How do you integrate them into your schedule? It's going to be interesting.
That's $1 million question, I think, for football and basketball. And, I mean, even, for softball and baseball and everybody, they're all wondering, too, is how it's going to work, whether it comes to be that pod system or whether, that was advertised as being what it was going to be. But we'll see. It's going to be fascinating and to see how it all works out. It's not going to feel like the Southeastern Conference anymore, though. It's going to feel like Conference B, or whatever, conferences A, B, C, and D.
Well, I agree with you 100%. And I will say this, that the SEC has the ability to figure it out. Each school made $54 million this week.
That's right.
So you know what? The monkey's on their back, right? Figure it out. Figure it out the way it works. The monkey's on your back. Go do it. They
should just be able to have one guy. We're going to pay you like $500,000 a year. You got to figure out all the schedules and don't screw them up because that's what's happened over the years. But hey, great to have you on, Mike. I appreciate your time so much, and enjoy the game Saturday tomorrow. And have fun with it, and have fun. I'm sure we'll see you down here for the game against Florida at the end of the season, which is where it belongs.
Well, that's exactly where it belongs. It's always interesting, and thank you for having me. Anytime, Pat. Be glad to do it. You take care, and see you in a few weeks, maybe.
All right, my man. Thanks, Mike Pratt, former Kentucky legend. No, he's still a legend. He's always going to be a legend. You're always a legend, right? Once you're a legend, you're always a legend. Once you're a jet all the way. But he is. I mean, he's one of the greats, and so does such a great job on radio and all that, doing stuff with Kentucky. And I thought it'd be good to kind of get a feel for what they've been dealing with. So we got a lot more to cover, a lot. All the great sponsors. We've got to get to all of our fun stuff that we like doing. Of course, this, that, and the others coming up, and it was hinted to at some point earlier in the show, just so you know. But we'll be back with all that and more on Another Dooley Noted Podcast presented by Titan MRI from the Meldon Law Gator Studios.
Alberta, I understand you were witnesses to a crash. Can you tell us about the accident? When you're in a crash, it's important to get witness statements immediately after the accident. Whether you're in a car, truck, motorcycle, scooter, or even a golf cart accident, at Meldon Law, we won't back down.
Titan MRI, North Central Florida's premier independent diagnostic testing MRI facility. At Titan MRI, we're focused on you, the patient, having a great customer experience. Our MRI equipment is modern and 75% quieter than any unit in its class. And our MRI unit has one of the largest openings of any of the newer high-strength MRI units, which allows comfortable scanning for potential claustrophobic and larger patients. At Titan MRI, we look forward to serving you.
Another Duly Noted Podcast comes to you from the Coach's Podcast Room at Spurrier's Gridiron Grill and Celebration Point. You can watch and listen to us on Facebook and YouTube for every podcast that we do on Mondays and Fridays at 2 o'clock. Listen to the podcast whenever on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Overcast, any of the other 39 platforms where you can find this podcast or your favorite podcast. Remember to like, follow, and subscribe. If you have any questions or comments, leave them in the comments section below or call me if you want to do some advertising at 352-317-3444. Hello there, everybody. I'm Pat Dooley, of course, from Another Dooley Noted Podcast. And this is a great Adam Brewer, and he's just opened up a place here, Adam Brewer To Go. What gave you the idea to do this, to have a to-go place?
We really like the fast concept, being able to get the barbecue. Now we have this new online ordering. So before it was a call ahead carry out, quick service. We have like a curbside kind of a deal where everything's ready to go for you. And then we thought, wow, we have a really great dine-in concept, but how can we make this streamlined for the customer and make it easy and accessible for all parts of town?
Adam's Rib Co. To Go. Come on down and enjoy it.
Great food, great atmosphere, a diverse menu, everything made from scratch, plenty of space, and locally owned. These are all the characteristics of a great restaurant, and you can find each and every one of them right here in Gainesville at Ballyhoo Grill. Ballyhoo Grill prepares all of their food fresh every day, from their salad dressing to their award-winning soups. Bring your family and enjoy dinner under the Tim Trebo Tiki Hut while listening to live music. Or if you're running low on time to eat out, they also deliver through Uber Eats, Fight Squad, and Postmates. A Gainesville staple that's been open for over 30 years. Check out Ballyhoo Grill on Facebook or at ballyhoogrill.com.
Okay, welcome back to Another Dooley Noted Podcast, of course, presented by Titan MRI from the Meldon Law Gator Studios. Did want to mention that all Zoom calls from now on are going to be presented by Big Mills Cheesesteaks as a major sponsor on our show, and of course for our golf tournament as well, as many of these people are. So we got a lot of things to get to. I guess we'll go to three things first. I'm looking forward to getting to this, that, and the other. Okay, because it changed today during the day. It's a weird day in that regard. All right, three things are, as always, presented by Hand Law, a Florida law firm which helps clients with government. You can learn more about Hand Law by visiting its website at www.hand.law. The firm is available for consultation in Jacksonville. Of course, Chris Hand and Hand Law, a double sponsor on this show, as several people are, and we appreciate them. We appreciate everybody for, believe me, you guys, we like having this show. We like doing it. We enjoy it. I know it's not football season, but it's getting ready to be spring football season. In fact, Billy Napier had a press conference today. There wasn't a whole lot that came out of that, by the way. Patrick Toney is going to call the defensive play, so that's the guy to blame when the defense doesn't do well. I don't think it's going to have quite the energy that the anti-Todd Grantham crowd had. And look, I was right there with you, man. I mean, it was there comes a point where you just got to say, I can't defend this anymore. All right, so three things presented by Hand Law. Number one, Major League Baseball with their big meetings going on, and they decided that the designated hitter is going to be universal. To which I say, what took you so long, idiots? It was the dumbest rule in a dumb sport. And I'm not saying the game of baseball is a dumb sport. I'm saying the people who run baseball have always been among the dumbest people. To look past steroids because people were hitting homers and people were going, but then you were going to have to face Congress and all this. Dumb. To be about to go on another strike, dumb. But to have the DH was one of the dumbest things ever. It wasn't that it was dumb to have the DH. I'm fine with the DH. I don't care if pitchers come up. But you can't have a different rules in different parks and different. This is like NIL. It was the DH was the NIL of baseball. Yeah, we got a rule. Yeah, no, that's not a rule here. Over here, pitcher has to bat. Stupid. And you would sit there trying to figure out the like even the World Series and stuff, and you go, well, is that an advantage for the games where they don't, when they're in the other park? Dumb. Finally, they get rid of this. It's fine that there's a DH. I don't want to watch pitchers hit anyway. All right, number two, Aaron Rodgers was named the MVP of the NFL, so good for him. I think he's one of four to win back-to-back, but it should have been Cooper Kupp. Cooper Kupp's the best player in the NFL this year, in my opinion. I mean, if you look at what he did and every week and consistently was unstoppable, he was the best player. And, you know, I don't think it was Aaron Rodgers, but I think it was Cooper Kupp myself. But he was – here's the thing, though. They name Aaron Rodgers the MVP, but Cooper Kupp's the offensive player of the year. Well, I'm sorry, did Aaron Rodgers play defense some? I must have missed those games when he did. Now, I'm a big Cooper Kupp guy. He should have won it. All right, and finally, number three, it's a glorious day in Jacksonville because they finally have somebody in the Hall of Fame. Tony Baselli goes in, and I'm not a big Tony Baselli guy. He and I have had some difference of opinions at times. But I think he deserved to go in? Yeah, I did. Also in Leroy Butler, Sam Mills, Richard Seymour, and Bryant Young, who's a former Florida coach. Does that mean a Gator's in the Hall of Fame? And technically, Bryant Young could go into the Ring of Honor because he's in the Hall of Fame and he was at Florida. That ain't going to happen. But it did bring up an interesting thing on radio yesterday. Jeff and I were talking about Because we both think Fred Taylor should get in now. And maybe there is an anti-Jacksonville bias. There's no doubt about it. Because these people are still mad about their Super Bowl that was just a disaster. It was not good. The media. I'm just talking about media. The media did not like the Super Bowl, and so they are going to vote against guys. But maybe now this opens a door for Fred Taylor. But we were talking, what if Fred Taylor gets in? He now becomes one of only 2 people qualified to being in Florida's Ring of Honor. The other one being Urban Meyer. Guess what? Not going in. Not for a long time, if ever. So that would leave Fred Taylor as the only eligible member. And I know that Scott Strickland has talked about changing the rules, and maybe he should. But if Fred Taylor was eligible, do you put him in as the only guy who's eligible and hasn't been fired from a job in the last year? And I don't know that the NFL should be the reason for the Ring of Honor. I've had this discussion here many times. I think it's what you did at the University of Florida. Fred Taylor was very good at the University of Florida. He had one really great year where they leaned on him, and he 43 carries against Penn State. But is Fred Taylor really Ring of Honor worthy just based on what he did at Florida? I'm not sure he is. That would be an interesting discussion to have, and we'll continue to have that discussion going forward, especially if he does get in. All right, so we have that, and then, of course, I will say this. We have to go to the not have to go. Why do I always say that? We have to do this. We don't have to do it. We want to do it. We love our sponsors. So we are desperate to do the Leonardo's and Millhopper Quick Picks. And you guys, I gave you a pretty easy one last week, and everybody missed it. Everybody. Nobody had Myron Jones. I don't blame you because, but look, as I said earlier, if that broken finger was what was holding him back, and all of a sudden he starts making shots, it's going to be a really good team. They can win some of these games that we talked about, and they're going to have to win them. If they don't win them, they're not going to play in the tournament. That's the bottom line. So nobody qualified for the Leonardo's and Millhopper Quick Picks. Of course, we're going Super Bowl. I'm giving you 2 things, and I'll have plenty of time to post them because I think the game's on Sunday. Is the Super Bowl Sunday? Is that on Sunday? I just wanted to make sure it was on Sunday. Just ask Siri. When is Super Bowl Sunday? Hey, Siri. All right, so it's very simple. Super Bowl. Who do you got? Rams or the Bengals? And you have to give the 4 if you're taking the Rams, okay? 4 points right now is the spread. And then the over-under, this is one I came up with because I like doing these things. For Evan McPherson, the over-under points in the game at 9 is what I'm putting it at. Now, what would 9 points? Well, that would be 3 extra points and 2 field goals, which would be about normal for him for the way that game's going to go. I think it's going to be an offensive game, and they'll probably kick some field goals, and he may kick 4 field goals, and then he'd have 12. So the over-under is 9. So you got to get both right to get in. You guys got shut out last week, or not last week, but on Monday. Is today Friday? Okay, so Monday. You got shut out. Sorry. All right, so that is our Leonardo's and Millhopper Quick Picks. Of course, Leonardo's at Millhopper, the official pizza of the Bob Dooley Invitational and a great sponsor of that event as well as this show. All right, it is time for our Adams Ribco to go, Gator of the Week. And this is the best time for me because I have a lot of options to pick from. And I really was torn between a lot of people, and it's only going to get more so going forward. And we'll talk about that in just a minute. But the Adams Ribco Gator of the Week is Myron Jones. Myron Jones was taking a lot of criticism from Gator fans. Why do we get this guy? Why is he shooting 40% at Penn State and he can't shoot in this gym? Well, apparently he had a broken finger, and that was part of it. I don't know how much it was affecting him. But the bottom line is the last 3 games, he's 14 for 23. In the previous 7 games, he'd made 8 3-pointers. Now he's made, in 3 games, 14. So if he gets going, like I said earlier, it's going to be great. And he has the greatest honor he's ever been bestowed, the Adams Root Co. to Go Gator of the Week. It's going to be a lot of fun dealing with this going forward because softball and everything, baseball is getting ready to start. It's going to be a lot. I love it. Hesser and Kipke. We need to get to the Hesser and Kipke games of the weekend. Of course, the games of the weekend are always brought to you by Hesser and Kipke, a law firm based in Hale Plantation, specializing in employment, workers' comp, and family law. Visit their website at www.hklawfl.com or call Ken and Jennifer at 3. I thought somebody was knocking on the window. Ken and Jennifer at 352-339-9920 for Hesser and Kipke. We appreciate them, the double sponsors that they are, and the games of the weekend that we do every Friday here on the show. By the way, Ken Hesser's probably, I don't know if he's happy or sad that the Penn State opener, I think, got moved to a Thursday. I probably should have looked that up before but I think I saw it briefly on Twitter, I think it was, but it got moved to Thursday, which good for me. Means I got a game to watch. Who are they playing? Minnesota, maybe? It's a decent opponent. Anyway, the Hesser and Kipke games of the weekend, and obviously the number one is the Super Bowl. You got to say that. Can I say it out in here? Super Bowl. Super Bowl! Steve Spurrier's having a big game party, though. I can tell you that. I don't know. Did they sell that out?
I think there's a few spots.
There's a few spots left. So if you want to come and be part of that, Coach Spurrier will be here for the first hour, so that'll be cool. 5:30 to 6:30 for the big game. But yeah, obviously the Super Bowl is the game. You gotta, and the thing about the Super Bowl is you gotta watch it just for the commercials, just for the halftime, just because everybody's going to be talking about the next day. This is what they've created, and they've done an unbelievable job of doing it. You've got to watch it. If you don't watch it, then somebody's going to say, hey, what about Justin Timberlake pulling off Janet Jackson's top and letting you see her fake boobie? I mean, come on, man. If you weren't there, it didn't have the same impact. You never know what's going to happen. What about Tom Petty? How good Tom Petty was. What about whatever? What about that play where the guy caught the ball on his head, on his helmet? David Tyree on his helmet. You got to watch the game. So that's number one, obviously. In men's basketball, the game of the weekend to me is UCLA USC. Obviously, you got a huge rivalry. You're both ranked. USC is number 21. They're hosting UCLA, which is number 12. UCLA is a team that I think a lot of people are going to have to go deep in their bracket. They've got a really good team. USC's good, not great. But it'll be an interesting game to watch. The SEC game of the week, to me, Florida, Kentucky, obviously is the one that means the most to us. But Arkansas at Alabama at noon is going to be fun. That's like, you're trying to set your Saturday and you got to be home at 4 to watch the game. But I got to be home at noon to watch that game. I want to watch that game. I am a sucker for SEC basketball. I'm sorry. Beat me with a stick. Make me write bad checks. Whatever you want to do. Gymnastics, obviously, Florida, LSU tonight. Get over there. Florida ranked 4, LSU 5. Those rankings are almost meaningless because I think Florida's way better than 4. But you're only as good as your scores. Kind of like the old was it Parcells, the first guy who said you're only as good as your record? I think so. Or maybe it was Will Muschamp. One of those. So we got that going on this weekend. Also, women's hoops do not play on the weekend, but they play Monday. So if you're looking for that game, they play at Auburn on Monday at 7 o'clock. I think their next home game, I'm trying to find, I thought I'd written it down here, maybe I didn't. All right, softball is playing on the road. In fact, we're not on the radio today because of that. But softball's playing at 5:30 against Illinois State today. So they start, that'll be on WRUF. So they start their season tonight as well. So there's so much stuff going on. I know I wrote this down somewhere. Next, I can't even read it. Sometimes I can't read my writing. All right, but that is the Hesser and Kipke games of the weekend. We had plenty of stuff going on. It's going to be a fun. Oh, and I forgot to mention the Waste Management Open, which is one of my favorite golf tournaments to watch. I would probably put it 6th or 7th among my favorites. It would go Masters, U.S. Open, British Open, PGA, Players, probably Waste Management. Probably be the next one. I think so. I love that because I played that course, and it's just so beautiful, and it'll be interesting to watch. So we got that. That's all the stuff. You need 2 TVs. You got to understand the 2 TV concept, or you're just never going to enjoy sitting on your butt like me. Or maybe I should get out. I literally had to do that the other day. I said, Pat, you need to go play golf, okay? Because at least you'll be upright instead of just sitting here all day. So I did. I went and played golf. Actually shot a 40. So for 9 holes, not for 6. Come on. All right, it is time for to finish off the show today. This, that, and the other. This, that, and the other is always brought to you by Ballyhoo Grill and by Ironwood Golf Course and by Darshackow Insurance. 3 of our favorite sponsors. We appreciate everything they do. I've had to change this. This was that Brian Harson all of a sudden was in trouble for maybe some questionable activities with somebody who worked in their staff. Some in the players, there were some questions about how he handled players, and so he's in Cancun though. So by the time he gets back, he's got to come back for the SEC meetings, and but everybody's talking about he's fired. Everybody was saying basically he was fired. All right, so that is that they looked at his buyout and all the media boys and went, well, $18.3 million. I don't know if they want to do that. I don't know if they really want to fire him for $18.3 million. How much are you going to give us, SEC? What was the number? $54.6 million this year. Yeah, it's still 18.3 is a lot of money. We're not sure we're ready to do that, but we got to find something that will make us want to fire him for cause. So they had all these meetings. He came back. Brian Harsin is going to be the Auburn coach next year. At least that's the way it appears right now. There is no place like Auburn. Let me tell you what, because when the other is your coach didn't get fired. Why was he going to get fired? They don't like him. Only at Auburn. It's the craziest place in America. It's not the happiest place on earth. It's not Disney World. I don't know what is the happiest place on earth right now. Well, right now it'd probably be Athens, but overall it's probably Tuscaloosa. All right, so that's going to do it. That was this, that, and the other course presented by Ballyhoo. Ironwood what? Finland what?
Finland is the happiest place on earth.
No, it's not. You're looking at snow the whole time. It's cold. Let me tell you what. It's probably like 68 right now. I'm freezing. So I'm not going to Finland. I would be happy, I guess. Happy and jumping up and down. All right. Well, look, we're going to have a great shows again next week. I hope you enjoyed Mike Pratt today, the former Kentucky great player and, of course, current great radio announcer. On Monday, Coach Spurrier, again, will be back in to talk. I got some good questions for him on Monday. And then on Friday, Andy Staples is going to come into studio and join us here, which he's done before, and we love having him. He's great to talk to from the Athletics. So we look forward to that. So a lot of stuff going on, a lot of stuff. It's crazy time right now in Gainesville because there's so much stuff going on, and we're not even talking about spring football yet. Can't wait to watch that. So there's all that too, all that and more. So that's going to do it for today's show. All right, Evan, good show. Appreciate it. Appreciate it, Garth. I should start thanking Garth after every show from, Wayne's World, Wayne and Garth. Thank you, Garth. All right, That's going to do it for the show. Hope you guys enjoyed it. We will be back Monday with Coach Spurrier again here live from the Meldon Law Gator Studios, presented by Titan MRI. Another Duly Noted Podcast. I am deep way back and out of here.